Alrighty. We are going live one day early than our normal broadcast, which is typically Thursdays at 3 p.m. But Ron is traveling again. Ron, how can I have your life where I'm going on cruises and all around the country vacations? You're having the
Is
time of
this
your life
remote?
right now.
Is this remote work locations, David?
You were on a cruise a week and a half ago or so, and you've told me more than once that it's just another location. I take my laptop and work most of the day, although you typically get the drink package to go with it. So that's nice.
Yeah, which means I have to do two shifts. I got to do my work shift, and then I got to earn my drink package at $100 a day.
Nice. So we're going to get into a handful of topics. We've got three topics for you today, three main topics, and then we've got a couple rapid fire. And then when I'm done, Ron, we didn't talk about this, but the Fed made an announcement today. I want to get your take on that real quick. But I also feel like Russell Brand right now. Maybe I should do undo a couple other buttons and do the whole Russell Brand thing. Just kidding. Our first
I was
topic
thinking
for
more. I was thinking more Sweeney.
Inappropriate, Ron. Inappropriate. All right. So our first topic we're going to talk about when Ron was actually on holiday, on vacation, workcation. We used Ron's digital avatar, AI avatar, and we're going to show you the next version of this later on. But Ron, which left or right? Which do you think is real and which do you think is AI?
Left or right? I would say that I would go with right is real.
I'm not going to tell you yet. I'm going to tell you once we get into the topic. So the next topic we're going to cover is Ron. You're going to lead the way on these two.
Financial literacy report from First Home IQ. We're going to talk about their most recent financial report as it relates to home ownership. We're going to really uncover some interesting data, and we're looking forward to that talk. I love this one. We're going to shock you with some numbers, and it's really we're doing it purposely to try to just help dispel some myths. So this will be a great conversation.
Yep. And then we typically after this we have a from the gut from Dave. We're gonna skip that one this week and get right into our first topic, where, like I said, Ron and I have been partnered up now for uh, a good while, and we are working on our first major product launch, and it's going to be all about AI and really delivering a product to loan officers that I've been in mortgage 15 years or more. Ron's been in it for about 50 years or more.
Feels that way.
Um,
It
but
definitely feels that
but
way.
but one of the biggest challenges that I've seen, and when I entered the mortgage industry in 2011, social media was different then than it is now. But I still see it to this day where loan officers just aren't taking advantage of it. Now there are some people that are successful enough without it. Good for you. If you don't need it and you've got a million referral partners, you've built up your database, you're great at client outreach, and you don't need social media, good for you. But that's not where most people lie. Social media these days is such a easy tool to adopt, but where I see loan officers getting hung up is one of a handful of reasons. Either they don't know what to post, they don't have the desire to post, they don't have the time to post, or they feel awkward on camera. They hate the way they look, hate the way they sound. So this tool that we're working on is going to help with all of those things. However, there's going to be there are a handful of AI tools that anyone that if they all have free accounts, but you're extremely limited on those free accounts. And then others have $20 per month, $25 per month, $30 per month subscription plans. However, you're almost still going to be in the same place as you were before because you're still having to come up with what to say on a daily or weekly basis. You still have to know the AI and how to train it. You have to really know all the nuances of how to train it properly, from not only what it says to really getting your personality out on camera. And the tool we're working on combines it's going to combine about a dozen different technology tools, some AI, some not. It's even going to introduce some human creativity as well, because AI is garbage in, garbage out. And sometimes if it's not trained, and sometimes it doesn't give you perfect results every time. So we're going to have humans it, interacting with all of that and tweaking it when it doesn't quite get it right, or or when it just needs slight tweaks. We're going to have it's going to be a complete AI and human related product, and we're super excited about it. We're going to start using Ron's next avatar this week as he goes to wherever in the world he's going. So let's pull up the image of the real AI, the real Ron, and the fake Ron. It's back in the topics. If we want to go back real quick, it's the first slide on the topics. Yeah. So Ron, you guessed that the one on the right
Yep,
was real.
that's what I guessed.
They're actually both fake. They're both AI.
Oh, see,
Um,
I should you were doing that.
what's that?
You already tricked me earlier on this. I should shame on me.
However, that said, so the way we do it, there's a ton of different ways you can train AI. You can simply just upload a photo of yourself and you can have it talk, but it's extremely unbelievable the way you move your when you do it that way, the way you move your mouth. If you're smiling in the photo, it doesn't know how you look when you're not smiling, and so on. Some of the apps you can upload multiple photos, but there's just I've tried it every way under the sun, and just uploading a photo will only give you results that you're halfway pleased with. So being able to train it is something that we're packaging up, and let's take a look at the AI video of Ron. Now this was one where he sent me a video 7 minutes long, and I coached him on the different emotions that he needs to show in his face. You need to tell some stories that's going to bring a smile out of you. You need to tell some stories that's going to have a little bit of laughter in it. You're going to have to tell some, you're going to have to talk to me where you're just have kind of a monotone face. AI needs to know all your different emotions and nuances around how you move your face. You can see I'm using my hand. I'm a hand talker. How you move your hands and so on. And so we've done this and we're getting it pretty close to perfection. So let's go ahead and play this video. It's just over a minute long. Actually, it's just under 2 minutes long. So hopefully you can hear it. Let's go ahead and play that.
Hey everyone, let's talk about wine. My love for wine didn't start in some fancy vineyard in France. It started in the clearance aisle with a $6 bottle that had a cartoon kangaroo on the label. And listen, at the time, I thought it was incredible. I was swirling it in the glass like I knew what I was doing, saying things like, I'm getting notes of fruit. Over the years, though, it kind of snuck up on me. One $6 bottle turned into trying something from Napa, then Italy. Then suddenly, I'm the guy reading wine magazines, arguing with wine experts, and installing temperature-controlled storage in my house. Now I've got, about 1,500 bottles sitting at home. And yes, before you ask, my wife has questions about my priorities. One of my favorite moments was the night a few colleagues came over and we decided to do a little wine tasting. That was the plan. What actually happened was, let's call it an enthusiastic celebration of fermented grapes. At one point, let's just call him John Doe, was quietly crying in the corner because a Cabernet reminded him of his childhood dog. Meanwhile, Jake was outside on the phone with his wife at 3 in the morning, trying to explain how time zones worked, even though we were all in the same one. Somewhere in the middle of that, someone declared a 2012 Bordeaux the MVP of the night, which is not how wine ratings work. But honestly, they weren't wrong. So yes, I've come a long way from $6 bottles. These days I like to think I'm more of a wine aficionado, or at least a very enthusiastic collector who occasionally needs to be reminded that tasting means small pours. Either way, wine has become one of my favorite ways to connect with people because it's not just about what's in the glass, it's about the stories, the laughter, and maybe, just maybe, making sure David leaves his phone in another room next time.
And we even made you pick up a glass of wine at the end of it.
Yeah, you know what's really surprising in that video is one, I didn't say any of those things, or virtually none of those things, and two, I didn't have a glass of wine in my hand. That's all generated. It's really incredible. And David, can I go back just a little bit on a couple comments
Sure.
that you opened up with on this? You know, we were talking about social media, and good for you if you don't need to be on social media. But the fact is, the entire industry is stampeding to try to get to the customer first. And a lot of times, there's no better way than do that than through social media. And our traditional referral sources are, weakening by the day. And now it's just an all-out race. And this is one way you can get to the consumer first, get in front of them, get to them where they are. And so some of the concepts of our product is helping people that have here to before been invisible, helping them start to show up. And we're going to discuss kind of our evolution, I think, with this whole AI and our first product. But I can tell you, I've been a disbeliever in, while I was behind this product, I didn't think I'd ever personally use it. And now I can't wait to use it all the time, quite frankly. It's so astounding. And David, same thing with you. I think you started out with it will never be good enough, based on everything you knew. And now you're excited that you can probably make it like Disney. I mean, you can do it so well. And you mentioned, so somebody can just go and maybe buy one of these technologies and try to do it themselves. But even with the version two, which you just saw, the version two avatar, you use 6 different technologies to generate that video. And the underlying product, the whole process flow for the product, at last count, David, when I was doing that schematic the other day, has nearly 60 technologies to get it from start to finish. And trying to fine tune every one of those, if like I couldn't possibly do it, right? Nor could I afford all those subscriptions. I want to know how to optimize it, and so by us, being able to bolt all that together and partner with other vendors and really get something special. And if we can do that at an affordable price, it becomes magical for you to help you show up online. Anyway, I just wanted to add some color to that, David.
Yeah, I like what you said there earlier when you talked about it's a race to get in front of the customer first. I It made me think of today with the Fed announcement, right? And I go back 7, 8, 10 years ago where there was big announcements, and marketing would get hammered with calls. We're like, we need a flyer, we need a flyer, we need a flyer. Whatever the announcement was, they wanted a flyer to get in front of their real estate agents. Think now in these days, if you had a tool that you could send a simple prompt to our platform that says, Fed just made an announcement, and we all know that I doubt there's any consumers following, as it might be all loan officers, but um, we make the point that the Fed doesn't control interest rates, but they're all talking about it, right? If you could just open up your phone, go to our site, and say, "Give me a video about what the Fed just said," our system is going to know who you are, where you live, your take on the Fed, your take on where interest rates are going to go, and it's going to create that script, create that video, and publish it to social media instead of 15 years ago, 10 years ago, marketing, I need a flyer. So it's that, and it's going to come with the unbelievably realistic voice, tone, gestures, and so on. So I'm excited about it.
David, you bring up a really good point here in that I would even take it a step further. We're going to really learn who you are, and we're going to discover how to represent you. So it's just, you're not going to just be a chorus of voices talking about the Fed. It's going to be you from your life perspective, your character, your personality. And so we could have 1,000 clients, and no two will sound the same at all on the same topic.
Yep. And it all kind of boils down to that initial intake. When you come on board as a client, it's going to come down to that. This sounds like a sales pitch. We didn't really plan it that way.
David, let's talk about actually our evolution on the technology. So you started off, and from what you had seen, you were, this will never work. It's so fake, and now you've been putting your fingerprints all over it, and we're showing everybody version two, and I know you're working on like version 7 right now. And I think now you're excited about how it can show up for somebody. Is that the case?
It is the case, and it's probably been in as little as a 4 month or shorter 3 month span where I had this idea for this, but I just I didn't believe it in my heart that it was really going to work. But 3 months later, or however long it's been, I kind of it's my jam. I'm really getting into it and learning how to perfect it. Because, like I said, you go on to any the first time I tried it, first you have to learn the product. Second, you're like, I'll just upload a photo, great, and it was just the results were just crap. But now I'm getting to the point where I'm like, all right, I need to build a curriculum around how to do this, and that's what we're working on right now. Is working on that curriculum, working on the tools for everyone, wherever you're coming from. We kind of want to meet you where you're at.
Yeah, and that's been something that's really been amazing. You know, the first Avatar when I was you know, in the Caribbean, it was okay. You know, I didn't love it. It was serviceable. You know, if you wanted a minimum viable product, it was serviceable. It seemed kind of woody. You know, and when I looked on my phone, it was all right. But if I put it on a big screen, I didn't like it at all. But the you know, astonishing aha there was it wasn't the technology, it was the performer, meaning that, you know, I had given really crummy inputs in, and that's what we're learning. It not like not all inputs are equal, right? And so we're going to be agnostic. We're going to say, hey, look, we can build this off of a photo, and you don't have to do a thing, but it's going to be like a C grade, or we can do it. We can do it where minimally participate, and we can make it a B grade. Am I frozen right now? By the way,
You're back.
I'm not. Oh, phew, this is
I
a
can
real wrong
still
too.
hear
I'll get
you.
the
Keep
app.
talking. Keep talking.
And then the third grade is, hey, you can follow our path and do the A grade, and it's going to look damn good, right? And I'll tell you, so I wasn't in love with it, but by day 10, when I was gone, I loved that thing. When I came back, I'm like, can we just keep, you know, Avatar Run going? Like, do I have to? Can we just keep it going, please? You know, and while we're about to roll out Avatar Run 2 here tomorrow or the next day, for the next 2 weeks. And by the way, Dave, I mean, I'm also on the road for the next 90 days. So you got to keep that machine cranked up. But I'll come back after 2 weeks because, you know, it's conference season. So I come back and I immediately go to conferences for the next 30 days. But we'll have a week to work on V3, and then we'll launch 333. But everybody out there, I'll tell you, Dave already has the technology, you know, totally tightened up for V7. But, you know, it's him being able to teach the subject how to show up the best. Even to like hand gestures and how inflection and the speed you speak. And we don't want to scare anybody. It's not that complicated. We're going to make it as easy as possible. And someday we'll be able to do it off of a photo. But right now, we want you to show up as well as possible. And that's what we're really working on.
Yeah. Um, I had a thought and it's in one ear, out the other. What was it? What was it? I think the the technology is super important, and that's gonna always continue to improve. But I think the secret sauce is gonna be how we train that. It's gonna take for you to get the best possible results. We need to spend about an hour with you. On You need to spend about an hour on our website going through telling us stories, telling us your preferences, telling us, um, background and all of that stuff. So that's really going to be the secret sauce in kind of training these to get to know you personally. Some people might be uncomfortable sharing that much with a platform like that, but hey, it probably already knows it anyway, right?
Yeah, you know, the biggest challenge, you know, since we've been dog fooding with me, meaning using our product ourselves on ourselves, the first thing you have to go through is denial. Like, I don't sound like that. And then, you know, you're like, no, Ron, you do sound like that. I'm like, I sound like that? Really? I don't sound like that. You know, so I don't look like that. Oh, I guess I do look like that, you know. So you have to get through that first, which is, you know, quite the stage. But once you get through that, it gets a lot easier.
Well, there's a big difference. I've been training people, I've been in front of the camera and training people how to do that for somewhere around 17, 18 years or so. And unless you're trained or used to it, then the way you come across when a camera is recording you, your body just shuts down. Your robot switch goes on in your head, and then you just start to speak monotone, and you start to, and especially if you're reading a script, then you're going to overly enunciate words. You're not going to use contractions, and that's just an issue most people have with that. But this is going to be totally different.
Are you suggesting that my avatar? I'm more robotic than my avatar.
Well, no, I'm not at all. But the way you just laughed right there is key to getting these avatars trained and truly being like you, because we're going to teach you how to do that. We're going to have you tell us a funny story from your childhood or whatever, and that's going to draw all of these emotions out of you to be able to train that avatar to do so.
Yeah, you know, Dave, I was doing my daily videos this week a couple times, and I'm like, I got done doing it, and I'm like, gosh, my avatar would have done a better job. Like twice this week, I got done and I hit stop record. I'm like, dang it, man, my avatar would have been a better job. Where is Avatar Ron? Let's bring him in for the bullpen. Let's
Yeah.
take care of this.
And Ron's avatar number two, he's going to have three different locations in which he's either standing or sitting. He's going to have three different outfits and so on. So, yeah, we're building it out where you can send us as many uh, training videos where you're just recording yourself for 5 minutes or so in different environments so that so it's not the exact same video every single day or the same look in the video every single day.
Yeah, you know what's crazy, Dave, is that my avatar videos are getting 5 times the viewership of of my real videos. And my avatar videos are doubling my traffic on my static post on LinkedIn,
Yep.
which you wouldn't think. Matter of fact, to give you an idea, I typically have about 4,000, 4,500 impressions a week on my LinkedIn text posts, right? And yeah, I got back and when the avatar wasn't working, it dropped down to 1,900 last week. I'm like, what? And of course, I don't have the video watching, but it's been really good,
Yeah.
And I love listening to people criticize my avatar, like God bless you, Bill Rogers. Ron's avatar needs to smile more, you know.
Good old Bill. All right. Is that it on AI avatars?
Yeah, thought it'd be fun to share our journey because we were both very anti against it, for different reasons. You from, your kind of artistic or, image way, and me because, I just didn't think it was authentic. And now I can't get enough of it. Like I would hand over my entire social media platform to this product. And by the way, the avatar is just one piece of a ton of different pieces. This is one thing, but I can't wait till our product is done so that I can deploy it for me, right? Because it will relieve so much strain of trying to post every day and be present and be, game ready. So I'm super excited about it. I can't wait till we continue to expand it, for my use, and then I can't wait to help share it with other folks.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's move on to our good friends at First Home IQ. Todd Bookspan, I forgot to mention him last time, so he's the first one I'm going to mention this time, and Kristen Messerly and Dave Savage. So I think this is the only slide I have on this, but it's all about financial literacy. So Ron, what do you have to say about it?
Yeah, first, I just completely appreciate the work that the three of them and that organization is doing for financial literacy. Their standpoint is there's a financial literacy crisis in America, and no one's better suited to go fight that war than loan officers on the front line. That we need to get out of the community and really teach, young people about finances. And then this latest report is kind of gives you more. It's on financial literacy, but it more focuses on from home buyers and what their perspective is. And it's so interesting, David. I've done quite a few posts this week on financial literacy because there's a bunch of surveys that have come out that just show how misguided potential home buyers are, how misinformed and how uneducated. And so this, of course, their survey, of course, shows it, and the data is incredible. David, can you remember off the top of your, and by the way, David, I appreciate your service with First Home IQ. You're on their board of directors, and I know this is passionate for you, and I really align with that. I really appreciate that. But in this report, if you look at the top 10 things, what data point really jumps out at you?
The ones that we're looking at right now?
Any of they say the top 10 insights, which I know you're familiar with. Which of it could be any of these five or any of them. What one just leapt off the page for you?
Um, one of the things that surprised me helping them with their presentation was how much Gen Z especially is now learning from places like TikTok.
Yeah.
That seemed to be the number one place that people are learning how to become financially literate. There were a ton, but that was probably one that really stuck out to me. My daughter's a big TikTok fan. My son is not, I don't believe, but she's a very knowledgeable 23-year-old. But I'd love to say that it came from her parents, but I think it's mostly from TikTok, and that's just the reality now. You know.
Yeah, I think the number was 40% and 41% of Gen Zers will go to influencers for their information. Of that group, over 70% go to TikTok as their dominant force. And similarly, 2/3 of them now consistently consult with an AI tool like ChatGPT. So they're definitely more techy. But the thing that leapt out at me, David, on that, over half, 51%, think you have to put 20% down.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand. Like, that just tells me that we're failing. Like, us as an industry is failing, right? And it was something only like 7% knew that you could put as little as 3% down. And I mean, that's where just the gap is. It went on to, it went on to say only a third understood mortgage insurance, and over 50%, over 50%, 57% didn't know that mortgage insurance goes away once you get to a certain LTV. It was just, the whole report just spoke to just misinformation. And it's interesting. I highlighted a survey from Tomo Mortgage earlier this week that surveyed 1,000 home buyers in the home buying process. And of that, one of the most interesting things, they ended that report by saying they asked the home buyers, how much time did you spend learning or working on your finances before entering into a contract? And it was less than an hour. And they go, how does that compare with your shopping habits for clothes? And they go, well, it's only about a third of the time I spend on clothes. I'm like, holy smokes, And that report revealed a ton of misinformation,
Yeah. One
type of thing.
one of the fun evolutions of our podcast here is probably within the next month or so. My daughter produces, so as you see me and Ron flying sideways, up, down, and new slides coming in, that's my daughter producing the show. She's 23.
Go McKenna.
Go McKenna. She's 23, and we're gonna actually have. She won't be on camera the whole time, but she'll have a camera on her to where when we've got questions, and if we feel like you want perspective from a Gen Z or a 23-year-old, we're gonna pull her in, and she's probably gonna be put on the hot seat quite a bit. And
She'll be like Robin.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So we're gonna add that within the next month or so. Get a Gen Z's perspective, because she's never been in the mortgage industry and she's never owned a home, and so yeah, it'll add a whole new perspective.
Yeah, David. Before we get off this topic, and I can't wait to have McKenna on camera. And by the way, she's part of the This is happy hour with Ron and Dave, or Dave and Ron, and so she's part of the happy hour. I appreciate it. She's going old school. I dig it. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna I'm not gonna give it up, but it's so good. But David, before you go, let's give it a little pitch for First on My Queue. If you're a loan officer, check it out. Become an ambassador. They have turnkey material, meaning you plug into them that you already are ready to go do first-time home buyer seminars, to financial literacy seminars. You're ready to go out into the community, get belly to belly. Remember, it's a race to the consumer first. Go out there and get to the consumer first. Use this as your wagon to take you there. It's so useful. And why they have a very benevolent purpose in trying to raise financial literacy and hopefully help people get into the American dream of homeownership sooner rather than later, so they can enjoy the compound effects and the wealth creation. But there's also an underlying strategy that this absolutely will drive business if you're a loan officer. That's what's so important, is that while you could be benevolent and you could be giving, you're still building a database. You're still getting a whole ton of future home buyers. Now, you're going to have to learn how to incubate them longer, but it's a win-win. And if you think your business is sluggish and you don't know who to call on and you don't know what to do, call Kristen, man. Get a hold of her. Send it on their ambassador calls. Go on a training call. And then decide. You can go, hey, you know what? I signed up for this program. I know exactly how to go prospect. I know exactly where I'm going. I know exactly what I'm going to do, right? And so I really encourage you to check it out and become involved. Not to mention, by the way, the ambassadors they have in the program. The ambassadors are people that have adopted the program and are using it. And for the most part, if you look at who's the adopters, the ambassadors, you have some of the top loan officers in the country. I mean, the very top loan officers in the country, right? And if the top ownerships of the country think this is a useful prospecting tool as well as something to give back, maybe you should check it out too.
It's always amazing to me when Dave Savage has referred and introduced me to more people than I can count now. And I just had a phone call earlier this week with another marketing professional, Bree Lees, and I was like, "So how did you get connected with Dave?" And then I stopped myself. I was like, "Never mind. Everyone's connected with Dave." I love his heart. I love what he's built there, especially the first home IQ piece. His tool, mortgage coach, trust engine, absolutely genius. But I'm just loving seeing him really lean into the first home IQ thing. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So check it out, everybody.
All right, so this next topic, it's not too far off from financial literacy, but we're talking about home affordability.
Yeah, I love this topic. Now, this right here, this is a chart that Bernie Sanders has been publicizing everywhere. What he's saying here is, look, it's harder than ever to afford a home. As you can see, home prices have gone from $200,000 in 1967 to 425,000 or 420,000 in 2021. And oh, how horrible, how horrible. Nobody can afford to buy a home. Like doom, 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 doom day. And here's the thing: the only reason why we're showing this slide, it's not a political slide. It's that's what the mainstream media, that's what our leaders, that's the narrative that they're feeding the people that we're trying to serve. And it's critical to get past this false narrative because it paralyzes people and prevents them to get into a home when they could get into a home. And home ownership is still the number one path to wealth in the United States. In fact, for the middle class, it's by far the number one vehicle. It's also close. It's close to the number one vehicle for poor folk or less income folks. The number one vehicle for their long term wealth is Social Security, actually. But
Mm.
it doesn't help when people are giving this false stuff. So we're going to show some other data that's going to shock you. It's going to totally change your perspective, right? Because it doesn't matter how much your house costs. What it matters is how much of your income it takes, right? And so we've heard all these statistics. Look, right now, the average DTI has gone up to 35%. It used to be 21% just 30 years ago. Well, I would say 35% is worthwhile, especially for the wealth that you get. But this came right here. This came from the Economic Innovation Group. And they did an analysis, and I saw this in a I forget who. I saw it in a I forget the guy. No, Noah Smith. He's an economist in one of his newsletters. And he said, look, all this hubbub, and he said, and by the way, he's super liberal. He's like, Bernie's wrong. Like Bernie's hurting us by saying this. And what this chart here shows is that in 1980, it took about 40 hours of work to pay for your home. Meaning, if you got paid X amount of dollars per hour, 40 of those hours or 80 of those hours would have been used to pay your mortgage. Well, you know what? It's exactly the same today. 40 years later, it's the same thing. People have to work. 80 hours of their work, the income from 80 hours of their work pays for their mortgage. It's exactly the same from 40 years ago. And we have this hysteria about affordability, which is just crazy. Because another thing is, which is few people can recognize, wages have gone up faster than inflation for the past 5 years, right? And so it doesn't matter if your house is $5 million. If it still just takes 2 weeks of your labor to pay for your monthly bill, the same it did 40 years ago, quit selling this snake oil. Anyway, sorry. I don't even have a Ron's rant. I was just warming up, dude.
So where do you throw this into the category of misinformation, or are there other factors at play? And we talked about this. Does lifestyle outside of mortgage or general bills and mortgage, how much is lifestyle playing into that these days?
Well, you have a really good point. The cost of living outside of your mortgage is getting higher and higher. And so you don't have as much discretionary income, or you don't feel you do. So let's say you work 4 full weeks a month, 40 hours a week. And so half of that, your income used to go to pay for the house. And the other half was plenty to be able to do everything, buy the groceries, send the kids to school, go on vacation. Today, that other half may not be enough, right? Because everything is so expensive. It's crazy expensive. Up to and including homeowners insurance, by the way. So, and by the way, you have homeowners insurance whether you buy or rent. You have renter's insurance. And so you're very right, David, that does have the overall cost of living for everything does have an impact. The other thing is too, David, and this is something that, the question is, do the generation today, do they have the willingness to sacrifice to buy the home that our parents did, right? Because our parents, it was like a foundational thing. Today, kids might go, hey, I don't want to buy that home. I want to go on vacations more. I want to buy a Gucci purse, or I want to, like, they have other priorities, other values that don't come before buying a home.
Which just seems a little bit backwards. I mean, there's value in, living your life and experiencing the world and so on, but I just don't think enough young people now are thinking about retirement and what that looks like later on in life. But hey, if I could travel the world and do all that, then sure. But no, I'm 47 now, so I've had to think about those retirement days too much. So
David, I had to apologize going
no.
on around my house, and I have bad internet, and I barely heard a word you said. And you may or may not be able to hear me, but it looks like I'll be back soon.
Yep, you're back now. It doesn't matter. We can move on to, or did you have anything else on those charts?
You would be cracking up if you could hear what I could hear because it's completely pixelated.
All right.
Um,
Then let's move on to our first rapid fire topic. I don't remember what it was, and it looks like Ron is still frozen. And Ron is the researcher of the two of us, so he usually pulls all the topics that we talk about. So if Ron's not back, then I could be screwed. But Ron, are you with us?
I've taken this opportunity to refill my beer.
Well, you're back
Hey,
with
David,
us.
one last thing going back there. I want to just add, going back to that, and I assume you can hear me even though I can't see you guys, but going back to that survey of 1,000 home buyers, the encouraging thing from that survey is like 62% of respondents said they were really willing to sacrifice and stretch to buy a home. If somebody could just show them how to do it. And so I do think there is that motivation still. But once again, that's a calling for loan officers to go out there and educate people. I mean, that's what we keep getting faced with everywhere we go. People they want to buy a home. They're excited to buy a home. They just don't know the path. And we can't wait for somebody to refer those people to us. We have to go out there and find them and help them. Anyway,
That was Ron's rant number two.
it's a rolling rant, just like apparently like my internet,
Hey,
you
before
know,
before we move to our rapid fire topics, and we've only got two, maybe three, and they'll be really short. But Ron, what are your thoughts on the Fed announcement today? Because you've been, well, I think anyone that knows you knows your perspective on where rates are going in the mid and long term. But thoughts on any reactions to the Fed announcement today?
Well, I'm surprised there was only one dissenter. One dissenter who wanted Scott, the newest, governor wanted to have a 50 bips cut. And then the dot plot map, this is one of the 4 meetings where they published the dot plot map, meaning their predictions going forward. It was still pretty dovish. It was not, it wasn't, it wasn't super hawkish, meaning the overwhelming, I think three of the 7 you track, said 2 cuts left this year. One said 1 cut, one said 1 hike. But I think the Fed did a really good job. They had no choice but to make a quarter point cut. I don't think would have been responsible for a 50 basis points cut because we would have seen that same, bond vigilante result. If they cut it 50 basis points and the bond market didn't think it was warranted, you would have seen actually the long end of the curve rates increase tomorrow instead of decrease. Same thing like I saw in Q3 of last year. And so the Fed did a pretty good job of trying to the best they could influence the curve. They don't have a lot of influence over it. I thought it was pretty responsible. I think the next month we're going to get an avalanche of data that is going to really send a strong signal about what has to happen. They're dual. The argument is they're dual mandate. They have to optimize employment, right, and they have to have stability in the economy. So they're dual mandate, but they actually have 2 other hidden mandates. That they don't admit to, but they definitely prop up the markets. And the third thing is they have to help manage, and these are not stated, but they're 100% true. They have to help the government manage their debt. So they're balancing a whole bunch of stuff. And, And I thought that was pretty reasonable. I was happy with the result. I would have been really concerned if they cut 50 basis points. I'm also happy that their guidance was maybe 2 more quarter points this year, depending on how the data comes out. I think that's very responsible. There's an argument to make cuts, of course, and then there's an argument that inflation is coming. The worst thing that we can have is stagflation, which is increasing unemployment and increasing inflation. That would just be horrible. And I know that Bernanke doesn't want to go down, with that moniker. What
Yeah.
do you think, Dave?
I'm not adding to that. They cut it half a point one time last year, and then a quarter point right before it.
They cut 100 basis points. They did a half point cut that was completely irresponsible last year. And it was, I believe, completely politically motivated to try to prop up the current administration. And then they got penalized for it because while they cut, the short-term interest rates, overnight cost of funds rates by 100 basis points, at the same time, the 10-year Treasury went up 100 basis points because the Fed doesn't control the long end of the curve. That's market forces. What are people willing to? And the whole thing is, Dave, if you think about it, if I buy $100 of debt, from the U.S. government, and say I buy it to get a 3% return, but inflation is 4%, well, my investment has gone down. I have a negative 1% return. And so if I think that inflation is going to be higher in the future, I want a higher return. It makes total sense, right? And so the Fed has to convince the bond market that they're going to protect them from this inflation, or the bond market is going to demand a higher return. And that's what they're facing. It's a really tricky situation right now, and it's a tough situation. I understand President Trump's perspective, and I also understand, most of the economists on the other side that feared, just cutting interest rates, willy nilly.
Right. Well, let's move from the Fed to back patios.
By the way, the question will be too. I don't think we'll see much improvement on mortgage interest rates in the upcoming weeks. I think it's already priced in.
Yeah.
And we'll just have to see what the different Fed presidents say in their speeches, because they can spook the market we'll have to just see. But it's a good sign. And rates are low. As a matter of fact, I saw places where FHA and VA were as low as 5.99, this week, which is great. And you have the conventional going down somewhere, depending on where you work, say 6.25. And I'll tell you something else, David. Locks, which is, I'm so happy to see this. The refi locks are skyrocketing right now because loan officers are being super responsible. Lock that puppy today, because you do not know we're going to have that rate tomorrow. You could, if rates continue to go down, fine. You can renegotiate your lock, or if they close, you can refinance them later at no cost. But if rates go back up like they have repeatedly in the last 3 or 4 years, and you don't protect your clients, you are screwed. That's why in the last refi boomlet, that's a Brian Hale term, boomlet, refi boomlet. The last refi boomlet, we only closed 10% of the loans for the apps we took because we didn't protect those buyers, because either the borrower or us were saying, look, rates are going to get better, so let's just hold off. And then all of a sudden they went weep, they went right back up, right? And we weren't able to close most of those loans. Where this time it seems like we've learned our lesson. We've locked and loaded those clients, man. We got to that strike rate. We are locking. That's why the cash out refi, rate and term refi, those locks are flowing right now, which is great. I would say just great job to the industry.
Well, don't you think the fact that they hinted at 2 more cuts, then the mortgage industry is going to start to drop rates in anticipation of those next 2 potential drops as well?
I don't think so. I don't, just because they're putting it on the dot plot doesn't mean it's going to happen. And it just takes one, it's CPI report to totally turn that around. And inflation is on the upswing. And I guarantee you, inflation is a bigger demon than unemployment to the bond market, not to us, not on short-term interest rates, but long-term interest rates. And the fact that they're inching up, and we don't understand if it's tariff-driven. And the argument, if it's tariff-driven, those are just fleeting inflation, or they really are built-in structural inflation. I happen to think it's structural inflation that surpasses the tariffs, but we'll have to see. And I don't think you're going to see the market continue to improve necessarily. We'll see.
Gotcha.
And there's another thing, David. There's a ton of supply out there. Our government, all these governments are selling tons of debt right now. It's a very competitive landscape to try to get people to buy your debt, which is why, by the way, and not to mention, most sovereignties have stopped selling long debt. the United States has greatly curtailed selling 20-year, 30-year debt because they weren't getting a good bid ratio, meaning people weren't buying it, And so the governments, that's another thing, they're doing this rotation into short-term debt. They're doing like T-bills like that. Like right now, almost half of our debt is in T-bills. That's never happened. It's usually less than 10%. T-bills are like 1 month, 3 months, 6 months. Like you're turning it over. The longest a T-bill is a year. You're turning that over all the time. But that's your lowest interest rate. That's how they can minimize the interest cost on debt right now. And so it's a very tricky situation. We just, keep, if the rate works, sell the rate to what you got. And have all the clients that you have a target rate, get ready to press lock as soon as you get there. And if rates continue to improve, then, let the wind be at your sails, right? But if they bounce back, just make sure you capture the business you can capture.
So when are you taking over, Jerome Powell?
No, that's a brutal job.
Yeah.
That's a worse job than being CMO at Loan Depot.
Oh boy, a little personal there. Couldn't disagree with you though.
That's a fleeting opportunity with no love.
All right, back patios. We got 3 rapid fire for you. Ron, what in the hell are we talking about with home patios?
Notice how I tried to put a governor on that last comment? Like I said, I almost said that. But what the hell? I am going to say that.
All good. All good.
Oh, gosh. This is just so interesting. There was a, some 12-year span, 15-year span where, people wanted patios, front patios, back patios, because they wanted to be in the community and with their neighbors. Like, come on over and hang out on our veranda, have some sweet tea. But for the first time in 15 years last year, there was fewer homes with patios, and none of that matters other than, to me, it seems like there's a sociological, thing to look at. People are already isolated, and now they want to get more isolated. Like, hey, I'm gonna buy a new house, skip the patio, just make sure I got a nice air conditioner. Like that seems antisocial and the exact opposite of what we need in this totally isolated world. What do you think?
I want to say it's just happenstance. I don't know. We all know that during, the last, when the world shut down, that, yeah, we became less social, but it is just a gut reaction, but I think it's just more happenstance. I don't see that being a factor, that people aren't adding patios for the sole fact that they don't want to mingle with neighbors or friends anymore. I don't know.
2% is a giant move, by the way. It's not a small move. It's significant for such a short time, as you can see on the graph. And David, you could argue that, hey, look, homes are super expensive, so they're cutting out amenities to make it more affordable. But in the past, they'd cut out, the nicer tile, not the front porch. I do think there's a signal here, but we'll see. Yeah. It's early on. It just caught my eye, and I think we have another interesting chart with that, or visual. Yeah, really interesting. This is the amount of single-family homes that have patios by region, and as you can see, the West, South Central, Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, they're all Tennessee. They're all like, come on over, come and have some sweet tea. Come on, let's hang out on the porch and listen to the cicadias, right? And the people in New England are, get off my lawn, get off my.
It's either that or it's just cold as hell up here, and I don't want to go outside.
It's either cold or hell, or like in New England, it's either cold or it's hot and humid with mosquitoes.
Yeah.
But and so what's the argument on the West Coast?
That's true. Yeah, I mean, I've got some dear friends from up in Jersey and other places up there, and don't want to say anything to offend them, but your comment is "get the hell off my lawn." It's a stereotypical comment, but kind of true.
Okay, so you're arguing that in the Mid-Atlantic, let's say you're arguing South Atlantic, you're saying in the Carolinas, that the weather is more inclement than in the Great Lakes, where it's either frozen tundra or bird-sized mosquitoes.
What are you asking?
No, you're saying. I mean, there's no probably worse climate most of the year than up in the Great Lakes area.
Right.
It's frozen.
Right.
Canada, right?
Yeah.
But they have more porches.
49%. That's true.
Yeah.
Okay. Then it's just your typical person from New England then. I think we can wrap up with that and just
Get get your Girl Scout cookies off my porch. I'm not answering the door.
All right, how many people did we just offend?
We're warming up.
There
Next week will be Avatar, Ron.
you go. There you go. All right, next rapid fire. What do we got on
Rapid
this
fire.
one? This
Oh,
is
this is my favorite one.
oh, this is I don't think we have I meant to pull media on this one. I'm gonna fire McKenna. We don't have any media on this one. So we
Like a
may just
Tinkerbell?
yes. Tooth Fairy. No
See, a
Tinkerbell.
Tooth Fairy.
So you're just gonna have to do your best to explain this one, Ron.
I could go put my Tinkerbell outfit on if you like.
Please don't.
I don't actually have one. Sorry, sweetie. No I'm kidding. uh, so, no, there was a great article in Axos, and I'm not a fan of Axos to begin with, but that's neither here nor there. And it was speaking about inflation and how widespread inflation is. And the title of the article is "The Tooth Fairy is Getting More Expensive." And it astounded me how much people pay their kids for their teeth now, or for birthday gifts, or for for allowance. So the going rate for the average parent or with Tooth Fairy, let's say, pays $14.87 for a lost tooth, like a tooth under the pillow. David, how much did you get money when you were a kid? When
I
you lost a
did.
tooth?
I did, but I don't remember. But we talked about this, and I tried to remember how much we gave our kids, and I thought it was about $5. I think it might have gotten maybe it started at like $1 and then got more when they got older. But my daughter just reminded me that we used to pay them a quarter, which I don't believe is true. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah,
I,
I don't I can't call back to my childhood and remember if I got that or not. If I got anything or not, I don't know.
I think my parents put candy corn underneath the pillow to try to speed up the loss of teeth.
Well, I'm from the UK, and I think they're I don't remember. I'm trying to remember if the UK are like, that's just a bunch of BS. We don't do that, or or maybe that was just my childhood and upbringing. But it definitely points to it says something about inflation.
Yeah, I got like a nickel until I made my last tooth. I got like a quarter. And our son, we gave him maybe $1.
Yeah,
It wasn't all that long ago, but $15. I mean, you got to go to the ATM for that.
yeah. I
And then,
some kids might be pulling their teeth out unnecessarily these days.
yeah, $15 gets you a good hit. No, now, how about weekly allowance of $37? Now you have you had a unique system for your allowance, and
W-
so explain that.
We
It wasn't
did.
$37, but
So this I give all credit to my wife, Callie. She had a plus and minus chart, and they were rewarded or punished by mostly their attitudes throughout the week. They had chores and that kind of stuff, and they'd get plus and minus charts, or pluses and minuses. It was mostly around attitude. Kelly was like, go put two pluses on your chart when they had a good attitude about going to bed on time, or go put a plus on your chart because you emptied out the trash, or it was like go put two minuses on your chart and it deducted. And there were some weeks where the kids had to pay us money, so that's kind of how we approached that. And then later on in their teenage years, I don't know, they actually both had odd jobs. My daughter was she watched kids, babysat, and my son was cutting grass and all that kind of stuff. So they were, I don't remember them being in their mid to late teenagers and giving them an allowance.
this is where we need to have McKenna on camera. And you say you have to credit Kelly. Get her perspective.
Actually, I'm
Uh,
not sure if I want her on camera that much. She's gonna call BS on me too much.
I didn't, allowance at our house was called dinner. You got fed and you got a room. That's your allowance.
Yeah.
But okay, how about the average amount people spend on birthday gifts for adults is $56. Hold on, there we
Say
go.
that
There we
again.
go. The average.
Oh, we lost him again. Okay, I think he said the average amount adults spend on birthday gifts is $56. I think that's what he said. We may just have to move on to the last rapid fire topic, which is pretty random, so I may just have to end the show. But Ron, are you back with us yet? There
I
you
don't
are.
like it.
You're back. If it's not my Wi-Fi, it's yours.
I am back. Yeah, and the last it's because they're building a new freeway next to my house. I think a 10-year plan.
Okay, so we lost you, or at least I lost you, when I think you said the average amount for a birthday gift for an adult is $56.
Yep, and for a child, it's 83.
Whoa. And that's the
Yeah,
average.
yeah, average.
Okay. Yeah. So teeth, the value of teeth are going up. The
Inflation.
expectation for gifts is going up. Everything's going up.
It's inflation,
Is
inflation,
there
inflation, inflation.
is there anything that's coming down?
Well, price of TVs.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, entertainment like this, virtually free.
That's also true. Alrighty, we got one last one. We talked about maybe skipping that. We're at 54 minutes. Ron, you made the call. Do we want to talk about um it was temperatures that sleep states that
Yeah,
sleep longer based off temperature. Skip it.
yeah, yeah. The colder the state is, the more you sleep. It's that simple.
Okay. Yeah. Alrighty. Well, that's a wrap for us. Thanks for joining us. If you're live, thanks for joining us. If you're not live, if you're watching this later, be on the lookout for Ron's new digital avatar where we're enhancing it a little bit more. He and I are working on this product on a daily basis, and we hope to bring it to market soon. But follow us on social media, including our personal pages. That's where you'll definitely see Ron show up with his avatar. So, Ron, with that, you good?
Super good. Let's go ahead and sign off while I still have internet.
All right.
Sorry about that.
See you next week, guys.
See you guys.